You guys know Nancy Mace, Congresswoman from South Carolina, used to be called a maverick, but now she's just defender of all things Trump. Watch this.
I'm not worried about Ohio rhetoric. I'm more worried about rhetoric that might get somebody killed.
What he has said about Ohio has been false and has arguably endangered people there, but you have no qualms, to be clear, as you said, about his rhetoric about Ohio?
I don't have anything, nothing that I've seen about what he said about Ohio gives me any sort of pause. I am worried about violent rhetoric.
Even
that
the
puts
lies.
me and my family in danger. I'm afraid when the
Well, do you care about the other people,
where I live,
Congresswoman? I hear what you're saying about yourself.
I care about everybody. I care about everybody.
Do you?
I absolutely do. And I see it on both sides too. And I've called people out. I call the balls and strikes. But to my knowledge, no one in Ohio has been threatened because of something Trump has said about Ohio, when there have been people that have given interviews about some of the challenges they've had with immigrants that are there. I haven't seen that. I think I've seen more cat memes and jokes about it than anything else.
All right, I'll send you some information. Congresswoman, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
I look forward to reading it. Thank you.
So there you go. Her head is in the sand about any kind of violence or threats of violence happening in Springfield, Ohio, because Donald Trump said that immigrants are eating cats and dogs. She doesn't at all think that the bomb threats that were called in and schools being closed and threats against immigrants, any of that stuff, not a big deal to her as long as she's not being threatened. That's what matters. Why? Because she's a narcissist. Watch this.
Your colleagues are increasingly saying they don't know whether to trust you or know where you're coming from. The Washington Post says maverick or a MAGA warrior. Nancy Mace tries to be both. In fact, there's this Washington Post story that says, how do you talk to a narcissist? A lot of people feel that you're a narcissist. It's all about Nancy Mace.
That was Fox News calling her a narcissist, saying how other Republicans don't like her. And she's just a not likable person. But sometimes she says things I agree with. Watch this.
As a Republican, I told my story on the campaign trail. I actually ran an ad about my own circumstances. I was raped as a teenager and talked about how I would work and protect women who've been raped, girls who are victims of incest. And rather than by winning by 1 point like I did 2 years ago, we ended up winning by 14 points. And we made this issue part of our campaign because I want women to know you can be pro-life and be pro-woman. They're not mutually exclusive, but we've hidden away from this issue. We've buried our head in the sand. We're afraid to talk about it because we're afraid. We want to go to the extreme corners of this issue, but that's not where the vast majority of Americans are right now. And we have to show compassion, especially to victims who've been raped. The Florida bill mandated that women who were raped, to get that exception, had to report it to the police, had to get evidence at a hospital. And I will tell you, based on my own experiences, it took me a week before I was actually able to tell somebody what happened to me. And by that time, there is no evidence. There's nothing you can collect at that point. And, that puts heavy restrictions on these victims. And there are millions of women everywhere who've gone through this. I'm not the only one.
So there she is, opposing a 6-week abortion ban and opposing what Ron DeSantis wants. And she's being an advocate of women who have suffered from rape, which that's a good thing that she's on the right side to actually support these women. But she does not apply it across the board. Watch her dodge this next question.
I know you've been outspoken about defending victims of sexual assault due to the past allegations against Jim Jordan that he turned a blind eye to sexual abuse. Give you any reservations?
I'm not familiar or aware with that. He's not indicted on anything that I'm aware of, and so I don't know anything and can't speak to that. But I will say that I have been, as you said, Margaret, I don't know anything, and I don't know anything about that. What I do know is that I've been a very strong voice for women. I've talked to Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise about that. I've been a very strong advocate for rape victims. As you mentioned earlier, the Judiciary Committee, with him as chairman, recently passed a rape kit bill that Barbara Lee and I are working on. And those are the facts and the data that I have to work with, and I've had a very positive experience with him in that regard.
There she was, dodging the question about Jim Jordan, who famously, there's accusations of him being at Ohio State when there was sexual assault happening to a lot of the wrestlers and Jim Jordan turning a blind eye. And she could have said, look, if the allegations come out to be true, then definitely I condemn it. But she kind of bobbed and weaved and got her way out of it. And now let's just show you one more time Donald Trump's comments on Springfield, Ohio, and immigrants.
You say you're just reporting what had been said, but why not say now, well, look, that turned out not to be true.
I don't know if it's not true. I don't know if it's true or not true. I read
Eating
something.
the pets, you don't know if it's true or not true? It's been debunked by local officials.
What about the geese? What about the geese? What happened there? They were all missing.
There was one guy with two geese.
Howie, I have no idea. I said something. I mean, there are a lot of stories. There are a lot of other stories that I've heard that are horrible stories. I haven't said it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But that's a story that was reported, and I said that. Why don't you go after the newspaper that wrote it? Don't blame me.
Well, I think it's been debunked by local officials.
I don't think it's been debunked at all. I think nobody talks about it except you.
So what he's done is he's put that out there. And J.D. Vance, who supposedly was one of the first people who started spreading this whole rumor of immigrants eating cats and dogs, he was in an interview and he said, hey, if I have to make up a story to get your guys' attention to Springfield, Springfield, Ohio, I'll do it. And so they know it's a lie and they don't care. They don't care. And there was Nancy Mace. You saw that in that earlier clip. Nancy Mace making an excuse, saying that, the rhetoric doesn't matter. Like, that's the problem, folks. The problem with what the right does when they make things up, when they say Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers, when they say Muslims are coming to get you, they're all terrorists. When Donald Trump says that countries are sending, that we have thousands, tens of thousands of criminals that have come from these countries. He keeps saying that Venezuela's crime rate has gone down because they've sent all their criminals here. That's just not true. That's not a fact. But what happens is people that are followers of his, that are constituents of his, they show up and they believe him. And some of them actually go far enough to commit acts of violence. We've seen people go into places of worship and kill people from another background simply because they've heard that those people are here and they're taking our jobs and they're taking our country and they're as Donald Trump had famously said, that they're diluting our blood. It's all very racist and it's all very dangerous rhetoric. But Nancy Mace wants to ignore it because rhetoric, it's not a big deal. As long as I'm not, stop threatening me. It's not good to threaten her either. It's not good to threaten anybody. But for public figures to go and say the things they do. Think about what Donald Trump was saying during the hurricanes over there in North Carolina and in Georgia. And he kept saying that FEMA is not here and that they're not present and they're trying to come after you and don't cooperate with FEMA. There was a couple other MAGA folks, Laura Loomer, who's a Trumper, who was saying, do not cooperate with FEMA. And then we saw, if you didn't see it, Google it after you watch this video, we saw that some of these MAGA types, some of these armed militia types showed up and they were trying to police FEMA, who was on the ground helping the people in the hurricane. And FEMA had to tell its employees to get out of that area because it was dangerous. So words do have meaning. Rhetoric is dangerous. When Donald Trump says that they're eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio, yes, there's a lot of jokes we can make about it. I'm a comedian. I love the jokes. Very, very funny. However, the truth is, the days after, there was all kinds of threats. There was bomb threats coming into schools. There was businesses closing down. Talk to some of the immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, and you'll hear that their lives were being threatened. By the way, the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio are there legally. They're there on asylum. They're there, actually, there's a system that allows them to have protection status until further observation. And by the way, they're there because there was jobs that required employees. And the Haitian community showed up and took some of those jobs, and they're doing those jobs. And they've actually helped reinvigorate Springfield, Ohio. Now, there is a problem. Sometimes when you get people coming in, too many people coming in, the resources of that city is not enough to handle all of the people coming in. So, of course, what's going to happen is the people that were there before are going to blame the immigrants. But the truth is the immigrants have actually helped the economy grow and raise real estate prices. And why not look at the community and go, how can we come together and all take advantage of this? How can we come together and build more resources so those people who had been in Springfield, Ohio and not doing well can take advantage of these new opportunities that the immigrants are bringing into the community. These are immigrants who are trying to help the community. These are immigrants who are trying to do better. Donald Trump keeps saying we want people to come here to do better. And yet they are trying to do better, but then he throws them under the bus. He goes, they're eating cats and dogs. They're not eating cats and dogs. That was all from some Facebook post where a friend of a friend had said they were missing a cat, and they assumed that it was the Haitians who ate the cat or the dog or whatever. Just crazy. Also in Springfield, Ohio, there was a tragedy. There was a Haitian man, immigrant, who was driving and got into an accident with, I believe, a bus, and a young boy was killed in that accident. And again, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump tried to politicize that. And they said that the Haitians are killing people, when in reality it was an accident. And then the parents of that poor child who passed away and the poor parents who were going through tragedy actually had to go and make a statement and say, please stop politicizing our child's death. So these people have no morals, and Nancy Mace has no morals, and she'll just say whatever she has to say to make her look good. Even her own party says she's a narcissist over there in South Carolina. If you're in South Carolina, find a better representative. Find someone who actually cares for you. Find someone who's got some empathy. Find someone who actually realizes that dangerous rhetoric can be dangerous for others, and you shouldn't only care when it's dangerous for you. Find somebody who is going to be an advocate against sexual assault and sexual violence, both when she has been victimized and when others have been victimized. Find a better person who doesn't just switch left to right and just want herself to do well for herself. By the way, she reminds me a lot of Donald Trump, who's also a narcissist. So the problem with choosing narcissists as our leaders is they don't care about you. Nancy Mace don't care about you. Donald Trump don't care about you. J.D. Vance don't care about you. They're using you to get your votes and give tax breaks to billionaires. If you don't believe me, read the reports. See what's going on. Donald Trump's tax cut in the first administration benefited mostly richer people, the rich, the wealthy. And this time around wants to give more of a tax cut to corporations who already don't pay their fair share. And he wants to do these tariffs. So anyway, let's not get carried away. Let's just realize we should not vote for narcissists. That's the theme of this. Nancy Mace, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, don't vote for them. Vote smart. Vote for someone that'll do something for you. I'm comedian Maz Jobrani. I'm on tour all over the country. Go to mazjobrani.com, find a date, come check out a show, let's have a laugh, or watch my special on YouTube. It's called The Birds and the Bees, and it's free. If you like it, tell a friend. If you don't like it, keep it to yourselves. Bye.